Hey, what's up guys? Travis here with Every Single Sunday, and welcome to episode number 1 of Project Blueprint. Project Blueprint is going to be this brand new 2024 KTM 500 EXC, and these videos are basically going to show you how to take these bikes from stock form to something you can run Baja with, something you can go do trail rides with, single track. Basically what my old 500 used to do, but just on the new chassis. In today's video, episode number 1, we're going to be doing a few installs from a company called Taco Moto who sells parts for these bikes. We're going to do their tidy tail kit, and then we're also going to do their switch bundle, which gives you the ability to turn the headlight off. It has front LED blinkers as well. It has resistors built into it. It's got the flasher unit, so it's going to be pretty cool. So let's jump right in and tackle this tidy tail. All right, guys, so here is the stock taillight assembly off the 2024 KTM. It's similar to what came on the previous gens. It's big, it's bulky, it's not going to last off-road, but luckily, like the old bikes, it's still 2 pieces and comes apart right here on this seam. The first step is to get that seat off. On these new bikes, there's just 1 bolt in the front, then give it a little bump forward, and it should come right off. Once you have the seat out of the way, grab that 8mm T-handle once again, and you're going to pull these 2 screws off the top. Moving to the bottom of the bike, we're going to have 7 screws. 1, 2, come on, 3, 4, 5, 6, I point out, plus 1 more that's going to be facing straight up in the back that I missed in this shot. Going back to do this again, I would actually just remove these 4 screws and do the rest on the bench. So you'll take these 2 screws out, one here that I'm pulling out, and the one just behind it that's behind my big fat head. These screws back here, there's actually 3 of them, not 2. And you can do these underneath the bike, or you can do them on the bench like I mentioned a moment ago. Now that you have the bolts out, it's time to do a little bit of wiggle work. That's just getting this rear fender to pop off essentially. It sandwiches the rear part of the bike on the subframe, so we're just going to get that loose, and then we're going to go ahead and disconnect the 3 wires. This shot didn't come out as good as I wanted. Angle's a little bad. I got fat hands, all that weird stuff. But basically, follow the 3 wires coming from the stock tail light forward and disconnect all 3 of those. I got 2 of them here, and there's a 3rd one that I missed. So just pay attention. There's 3 total. I'm looking for it right here, and dun dun dun. There it is, hiding underneath the ECU. All right, so here it is. This is the stock taillight assembly that we just took off, just to give you, whoops, almost dropped it, just to give you a quick look at what's going on here. Yeah, so this is going to come apart into 2 pieces. That was the last screw, number 7, that I didn't point out in the initial part, so you can do it with the back 3 on the bench, like I said. Once you have all 3 of those screws out, the fender will separate from the undertail portion, and then go ahead and fish these wires out. Take your time so you don't mess anything up. Next up, grab that 6mm and pull out these 2 screws facing back. These are actually longer, bigger wood screws, so set these somewhere else so you don't accidentally grab them later. Once you get both of them out, you'll see this. You'll see the taillight section come into 2 pieces. The lower, bigger part that we're going to keep, and then the other larger, I guess they're not both large, but the part that has the license plate bracket, turn signals, taillight, all that stuff we're not going to use. All right, so this is the complete kit for front and rear blinkers for your 24 KTM 350 500 or Husky 350 501. Basically, this package right here comes with all sorts of goodies. So let's break this down. So if you're doing just a tidy tail, you can buy this portion separate, and I think it sells for 108 bucks. And this is all you need for the tidy tail. You don't need any of the extra stuff. You'll want some sort of license plate mount. I'll show you the one I have later. It's somewhere in the garage. It's from Moto Minded. They sell it for $40, I believe. So you're 150 bucks for the back end of your bike. So that's the tidy tail portion. Now you're probably looking at this going, what is this? Why is it $240? Including the tidy tail, and why do I need it? Well, they made some stuff different on the 2024 bikes. Taco Moto has sold this as their slim headlight switch for a few years. For the other bikes, it had off, low beam, high beam, and you could just plug it in on the previous bikes and it was great. But the new bikes, the headlights are on. When the low beam's on, the low beam's on. When the high beam's on, the low beam's still on, and there's a running light as well. So you can't just turn your headlight off with a flick of a switch on the new bikes. They had to put a relay in here. So there's a relay built into this. And then also on the new bikes, you can't just add LED blinkers because you'll get rapid blink. And if you're running fast LEDs like these things, they're not going to fill up all the way. They'll fill up like halfway and then go back. So rapid blink with blinkers that grow doesn't work. So we'll set those there for a second. So on this, you have your headlight switch that's been adapted to fit the 24s. You have your blinker indicator that runs up to the bike. You have your relay, so you can turn the headlights off, low beam or high beam. And then inside here are resistors, basically to increase resistance to what the incandescent stock bulbs were, since we're going to LEDs. And then on top of that, everything is plug and play. They're labeled left and right, so you can put all this on. This section right here with the tidy tail, I want to say sells for $240 currently. I'll drop all that stuff in here. And then if you want to add the blinkers on, I think they were like 50 bucks or something. I don't know. I have notes in my phone, but I'm filming with my phone, so I can't get to them. Should have written this stuff down earlier. What is this? I don't know. It fell out of somewhere. I'll throw it away later. Since this video was primarily tidy tails, this is what we started with. It's huge. It's nasty. All this is going either in the trash or setting it aside for when I sell the bike. That whole thing is being replaced by this Taco tidy tail unit. It's got a little arrow on the back so you know which way it goes. There's that. We got screws here, and we're gonna throw this on. So this will install just like the 20 to 23 bikes, pretty close at least. So you're gonna take your screws. They're gonna go through the light first, two sides. And then you have these spacers, and these spacers will key into that. So you'll see the little standoff that's ground in. Those will fit in there. So you'll put those over your screws. All right, and now you basically have a complete tidy tail that you can go ahead and wire back into your motorcycle. Instead of having 3 plugs, there now are just 2, but this will run your running light, your brake lights, and your turn signals. All right, so this thing here and this thing here make up something called the Moto-minded FlexxPlate, and this is 3D printed, so you're gonna say, hey, that's super cheap, but it's awesome. It gives enough flex so that this doesn't break on your bike. My last bike had 170, 200 hours of abuse on it, lots of crashes, never broke or bent a license plate. So the way this works, you basically mount this to the back of the bike here like that. It comes with this backing plate that mounts to this, and then your license plate will mount to this, and the whole thing kind of stays like this and then flexes around so it doesn't break. Now, lining this up isn't too bad. If you flip your license plate over, you have one hole here at the bottom already, so that's where the bottom one's gonna go. And then once you get that on, run the bottom screw in, put it up there, and then mount your 2 top ones. So once you get that bottom one in there, go ahead, adjust this side to side, make sure it's all square. That way it's gonna not be crooked, because nobody wants a crooked license plate on their bike for the next few years while you own this thing. So one thing to be aware of is the outer holes. If they're too close to the edges here, you're not gonna be able to get a washer on there. So that's why I'm gonna go with the 2 center holes here. If you have an awl or something to mark this, you're probably doing better than me. I'm just starting with a little tiny baby screw or baby drill here. All right, so we have the main flexible support that goes on the bike attached now. As you can see, there's a little wrinkle here. That doesn't really matter. All this stuff's kind of flexible, so we can stretch it to fit the plate on here. All right, there she is, ready to go back on the bike. We're gonna go ahead and install the fender. We'll put these 3 screws back in. The rest will have to go on once they're on the bike. So as you can see, there's different size of these KTM wood screws, they call them. They got a 6mm head. They all look pretty similar, but obviously some are longer. These three right here are gonna be the shorter ones. If you put the longer screws in, they're gonna go up and they're gonna put a dimple in the top of your finger. So first off, make sure your wires are tucked in underneath the keepers there. We're gonna need to fish these plugs through. All right, there you have it. 100% complete. Blinkers, turn signals, brake lights, all in one. Let's go ahead and get this back on the bike. So when we go to put this back on, this is gonna have to straddle this section here. Parts will go below it, parts will go above it, and we need to make sure our wires don't get pinched in the process. So to start this, I'm just gonna kinda work this on here, try and get it in the right spot on its own. All right, so that kind of keys in. Our wires are coming out this pocket right here. They're not pinched. Now we can go ahead and start putting our bolts back in. We'll start by putting the two pan head washer bolts in there. They got the little standoff in there. We're just gonna put these in a little bit loose to start with. Remaining hardware for the bottom, we're gonna have our 6mm head screws. These are more wood screws. These are gonna go in here, right in front of the muffler. And then we have our two longer screws here. These will come straight up from the bottom, and these go into the subframe. So these are very important to get in. Once you have those in, go ahead and do a final tight on all these. Also go back through, tighten down the last two screws up here that we started earlier. All right, now that this is all in, we just need to hook up our two plugs from our tidy tail, and these can only go in one spot each, so find one plug there. Which way is that key in? There's one. And then the second one is right here. That'll clip back into its little holder. Find a nice spot for these wires to lay. You can tuck them down underneath the ECU if you want. This one can go right here alongside in this keeper. This last plug's not going to be used. That was for the other brake light that's not on here anymore. I'm gonna tuck all this stuff underneath the ECU. Next step is to make sure this thing actually works. So let's start this brand new bike. So we have a running light. We have our brake light working. Left turn signal. Right turn signal, cancel, and brake light once again. All right, guys, so there it is, installed, ready to go. Nice and strong, no problems. It's not gonna be flopping around on the trail. Everything's integrated in here. Is this street legal? Technically, no. The blinkers are supposed to be a certain width apart from each other and have a reflector and a bunch of other stuff. But I ride this motorcycle primarily off-road, and when I had my last bike, my other one here that's getting sold very soon, I ran the same setup on it for years, never had a problem on the little bit of street riding I did, and it looks great. So moving on to the front of the bike, we are gonna get rid of these big floppy incandescent bulbs, which are sure to fill up with dirt and break off just like they have for every other year since these bikes have been coming out with this style blinker since 2017 or whatever it is. We're gonna be replacing them with these. These are the stock blinkers from Taco Moto. They're wired to where they're plug and play. And then on that harness, there's even a running light here so that they'll run white light all day long and look pretty bitchin'. On previous generations, Taco Moto sold the fork wrap blinkers that went around here, and you can still run those if you want to. The problem is this wing right here blocks most of the light, so you're not gonna be able to see the blinker for oncoming traffic. So if you want to trim this off, you can run the fork wrap style blinker instead of the stock blinker that's going to go up top, or you don't have to run any blinkers at all. Me, I'm gonna go with the stock style ones. I think they look pretty cool, modern, and fit the look of the new bike. So let's go ahead and remove this. Previous years, there was a rubber strap that held everything on here. Now there are two 8mm head bolts. Just have a little bit of a flange on them for when they go back in. And we're just gonna lift up. Look for our plugs on the back. So we got blinker plugs with a small one here. Another blinker plug. We should have a key plug for the key. And then I guess this is our new headlight plug. It's a little bit different style here. How's this one come out? Push on the back side. That pops off. And we just have to get our brake line out of here. A little bit of finagling. And there is our whole new headlight unit. So this is similar to like what Gas and Husky have done the last few years. There's like an inner housing bolted to the mask itself. So step one of the front is removing the headlight switch. It's hid behind these giant hand guards. It's going to be 2 Phillips screws on the bottom here. And this piece, which you couldn't see, is now 2 pieces here. One big wire. And we have removed our OEM blinkers, horn, high-low switch. And we're gonna hang on to this for a friend who needs it, or if we ever put the bike back to stock. Bring over our new unit here. So this one has an off position, low and high, and it's been wired to work with all that stuff through all this magic that Taco Moto made. So I went ahead and mounted the switch first just to get the wire length correct so that I can get everything kind of figured out where it's going to go. Next up, we got this main harness plug here. This will go right back onto the other one, just like that. And then, let's see here. So this comes off. This is our incandescent bulb here. That guy is already plugged into there. Okay, so we're going to take this off. That comes off. I believe everything's wired into this already here. So we got blinkers, that's spliced into there, headlight plug, and all right, so these are basically, this went to the headlight, now it's going to go through the relay. So we have, that goes to our headlight. All right, so that goes into the relay. Now this portion will actually go to the headlight itself. This I need to run up here. This one goes to here, like that. So that leaves us with a key, our headlight, and our blinkers. And I'm not sure what that is. I'm gonna go ahead and clean all this up a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and change over our blinkers. I'm gonna do this off camera. Basically just loosen the nut up right here. This pulls through, put the new one on, facing forward, and then I'll be right back. All right, so there we go. Everything is pretty simple, ready to go. Plugs, headlight plug, and key plug. So 4 things to plug in here. Plus, we're gonna have these little running wires here that are gonna cause these to stay white while you're riding. If you don't want them to stay white, don't hook up this extra little white wire. Those are gonna plug into that little dual port right here. So before I assemble everything here, I wanna make sure this all works. So I'm just gonna kind of hook it up really quick while it's all loose. Hot power, okay. We'll give this a little test drive before we tuck all the wires up in here. See that? Yeah, check out the blinker action. Off, low beam, and high beam. Sweet. Woo! That is bright right there. All right, guys. So if you follow the channel or if you know anything about dirt bikes, these Ruby Moto R7 headlights are the best. And check this out. We got one of the first brackets from Moto Minded that's going to fit the 24 KTM headlight shroud here. An adapter plug so we can take our Ruby Moto R7, take it out of our shroud from our 20 to 23 bike and move it into this new 24 generation. So we wanted to do this video using all the OEM stuff for you. The next one, we're gonna go ahead and get this bad boy on the bike. All right, so we got everything pretty clean here. We have our headlight plug back on the holder. We got the little 3-wire prong slid in here. Hold that nice and tight. This will be for the key, blinkers, running light, and headlight. This stuff all needs to hang kind of loose as our headlight will push into this area. Right side, like that. This area right here is for the brake line to go through, so that's going to go in front of the little wing. Then we have the 2 little spots on the bottom that go into the fender. Give everything a little wiggle, and we'll put our screws back in at the top. All right, now trying to fit all these wires back in here has been a little bit of a headache, honestly. There's a lot of stuff going on. I have them tucked above the headlight. There's a little bit of a pocket, and this will push back. There's not much pressure on it, and I can get my screws back in. All right, she's done.